Oh, yeah. You're listening to Traumedy, the podcast that helps you take your pain and play with it. I'm Nancy Norton. I am a comedian. I just got certified in therapeutic humor from the Association of Applied and Therapeutic Humor as a certified humor professional. So I feel like I've had several lifetimes in one. It's kind of fun. Worked as a registered nurse for many years, worked as a comedian, then I dusted off my license again. When I adopted my son, went back into nursing for a little while still doing comedy. And now I've combined nursing, healing with the power of humor. A couple of power humor presentations coming up in Seattle for the pelvic floor physical therapists and nurse leaders in Dallas, Texas. So yeah, if you need a little laughing and learning experience in your conference, you reach out to me, Nancy Norton, through my website, nancynorton.tv, like television. That's nancynorton.tv. Nurses Off the Charts is coming back to Dallas April 3rd. I don't know why. I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff in Texas. Moms Unhinged is coming up in San Antonio. Heroes Off Duty in Dallas and Fort Worth. All of those are very different shows, very different content. This week is a unique guest who is a poet.
Because I was in my car and nobody's going to mess with me. And even if he does mess with me, I'll just like lock my doors. And if he breaks the window, then I don't know. I guess we have bigger problems.
Do a slam poem.
Slam at him.
Slam at him.
I have gotten a guy to leave me alone with a poem.
I love this interview. We had so many fun moments. And then right after we recorded this, we went and did a sold-out show at the Rialto Theater for people in sobriety. What a fun night. I want to dedicate this episode to my second mom, Betty Lou Klinkenbeard. Betty Lou Klinkenbeard celebrated my humor. She let me be me. She accepted me. I lived half my life as a kid at the Klinkenbeards. And I just want to say thank you, Betty Lou. Thank you. And she's also an excellent nurse. She was a head nurse. And she and my mom would talk on the phone, and my mom would just laugh and say, "Oh, shoot, Betty." So now if you are around me and you hear me go, "Oh, shoot, Betty," that is a tribute, a little nod to my mom and Betty Lou, because my mom cared so much about what people thought, and Betty Lou did not. So thank you. And I'll be in the Ozarks next weekend. I'm not sure we'll upload an episode next week, but we'll see if I get back in time to get that done. Anyway, have a great week and enjoy this episode, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to Traumedy. My guest this week is a poet. I'm so excited. I think you're my first poet. Please welcome Stone.
Hi, I'm Stone. I'm a poet.
And you do slam. You do poetry slam. I almost said story slam, but it's poetry slam.
I do poetry slam. Poetry slam is basically just competitive poetry. We have decided back in like the 80s or 90s, people decided that poets were not sad enough, is what I always tell people. And we decided to start judging each other's trauma and putting like numerical values on it. But you've done story slam, so you're familiar with the concept of slam.
And, the first time I did it, I didn't know. I was so like, oh, they're not going to cut me off because these are my friends. I didn't know how it worked.
Oh, no.
Oh, they stood up with bells and horns and like, and I was right in the middle. So I did learn, like I had to practice, which is not something I like doing. No. But with story slam, it must be so much the beats and down to that. I mean, not just the syllable, but the breath between the syllables.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. We have a 3-minute time limit. On the bright side, you do get a 10-second grace period, just because, with poetry, sometimes you pause a little bit longer than you intend. I let myself kind of get carried by what feels right in that moment. I tend to rush myself, but there have been times where I've almost gone over in time. But yeah, we do at our slam a warning. So people will raise their hands when you get to the 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And that's a like wrap it up. And that's when that happens, you get pretty nervous. You start,
and then you just kind of like split it out, like spit it out really fast, or try to land the plane,
try and land it
straight down.
At least try and like finish the sentence and be like, okay, this is a whole poem, I guess. Yeah.
I remember when they rang a bell and they stood up with this weird horn and then another horn, and then I was like, just love yourselves, and left the stage. Like that was, I was like, I literally was right in the middle of the part where it was the worst, like the peak of the horror of the story where no, I just left them all with just the trauma, not
Just the trauma.
unresolved.
Yeah.
Unresolved. So it did compel me to go back and clean it up. And that's how that happened.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so excited to get to know you because I've only met you once at a comedy show and I enjoyed your energy. And thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
And knowing, like you said, you've heard a few episodes and know what's, the gist of it.
Yeah.
I just love that we talk a lot about post-traumatic growth on this. And would you think your poetry, obviously you were just saying we judge each other's trauma, is it born out of having some trauma or your background?
It is. I think what I do like about poetry is it can be very trauma heavy, but you can also go to a poetry slam and people will do love poems and I did a poem last night actually just about how much I love my best friend. Like it was literally just a like, I care for her, she cares for me kind of poem. And it's funny. It's got some jokes. There's a little bit of like seriousness in there of like, we might live in a society that society doesn't care for us. So like we do, but for the most part, it's just a love letter. It's just about like having a really intense friendship that I'm just really glad and grateful for. But there's lots of trauma poems. I'm not going to lie. I have a lot of trauma poems in my repertoire for sure.
But even the value of connection speaks to something. If we grew up, I don't know about your childhood or if you want to share about it, but in my family, like my joke in my album is called Fourth of Three Children That Were Wanted. But I feel like craving connection, part of what I got called to stand up about is craving connection. So just the fact that you celebrate that connection so much might speak to a lack of connection.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just making assumptions.
It probably is. You're probably onto something there that I didn't consider previously.
Like
we're discovering something.
Well, I always think of like the cookie cutter, like say you've got the cookie, which is maybe the trauma, and then there's the relief painting that's around it when you take the cookie out. The connection might be that relief painting.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm making stuff up as we go.
Because like I growing up was not the most sociable person. I moved a lot. I didn't have a lot of good friends because I moved constantly. And so, yeah, you're probably right that I am writing this poem about this really good connection because I maybe lacked them growing up. I have been writing a little bit, just like personal essays about moving a lot and like that lack of growth and connection, or not lack of growth, but that lack of lasting friendship.
Right.
Yeah.
Like building the intimacy or like, that old keep new friends, or make new friends. That's what it is. Make new friends, keep the old. But you didn't get to have old friends because what was your dad in the military or something?
I'm an Air Force brat. So we were moving. I lived in Alabama for 4 years, and that was my longest stint.
Of course, right. And the longest place is Alabama. I'm nothing against Alabama, but I have some issues.
No,
I have a couple of issues. But no,
we don't have to be nice to Alabama.
I've heard that Huntsville's really cool. But yeah.
But I definitely moved a lot.
4 years was the longest place.
Yeah.
How old were you in that 4 year?
It was from like 8 to 12. It was 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. So even then, like even in the middle of that, I had that big transition from going from like elementary school to middle school. So it's not like it was all through one fell swoop. So yeah, it was kind of chaotic growing up. And yeah, I'm really glad I've settled in Denver. I'm planning to stay here. I like living in the state that I live in, even though our winters do suck sometimes. But yeah, it's really, that's something I've been thinking about and like considering writing about too, is how I value like the root system that I've set up here really deeply.
Yeah. How long have you been here?
I moved to Denver in 2020. And before that, I was in Fort Collins, and I was in Fort Collins from the time I was like 16 to 22.
So some formative years here in Colorado.
Yeah.
And is that where, so your dad, did he retire or his?
Yeah, he retired up to Fort Collins. So they're up there, I'm down here. An hour is about the space that I'm enjoying.
You can have your autonomy.
Yeah. I don't run into them grocery shopping anymore. Like those first few years when I was living in Fort Collins and they were too, I was like, this is weird. I wish just
you don't want them to see what's in your cart.
Yeah, I just see them at Kroger sometimes, and I'm like, oh,
this is personal. Don't look at my cart.
This is mine. Yeah,
I bet my son would feel the same way because the way he eats, and I'm always like trying to get him to like eat a little better. But I mean, come on. I don't know if that was an issue. It's
No.
just kind of funny idea.
Yeah, no, the amount of chicken tenders I eat is between me and God. Like and the chickens. Like that's
And
it.
those chickens, the chickens that are missing their tenders. Yeah.
Those poor guys. Yeah.
I know. I do feel for them. I've been buying, what is it? What brand is it? That it's Impossible Chicken.
Oh yeah.
I buy these Impossible Chicken tenders. So they're pretty good, you know?
Yeah, 'cause
I
you
mean,
were-
it's not health food. It's just sometimes you want to treat, like I want to make a Caesar salad, throw a little chicken tenders on
Yeah.
there, or my faux chicken tenders. Anyway, I still sometimes buy that kind of stuff. It's comfort food, and
It
I do
is.
love a tater tot. I'm going to say it.
Dude, tater tots are unmatched in terms of potato products. Everybody talks about fries. Everybody talks about hash browns, but we really need justice for the tater tot, truly. It's my lifelong mission now.
Well, when we think about eating comfort foods and also doing poetry, sometimes I'm aware when stuff is up for me that I want a comfort food like that.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
there's things going on and I'm like yesterday, I just needed mashed potatoes for whatever reason. But is there anything you wanted to share specifically about any certain trauma, or did you want to share a poem that goes with a certain thing from a traumatic event? Or
I mean, I have a few poems I have some funny stuff about depression. I have some sad stuff about depression. I do my best to try and incorporate both. I guess I'll read a poem.
when you do the slams, which ones usually win? The heavier ones or the ones that have both comedy, or have you noticed a trend?
It's really hard to tell. I think sometimes funny poems tend to do better just because they're more engaging. Sometimes when you get up on stage and you start out slow and then you just continue on that same, like, this is my trauma and I'm sad. It's hard to keep people really engaged. That's something that I've noticed, but I've also definitely seen people win with like just sad, traumatic poems. And, you know, I tend to go for the funny stuff because that's kind of who I am naturally. Like, I don't.
You have a really high frequency, I've noticed,
Yeah.
so I could see that. Yeah, you like to laugh. What did you say? Sometimes you call yourself a silly goose.
I'm a silly goose in recovery. Like I am a silly goose, but I'm in recovery about it. But yeah, someone asked me once if I felt like a poem that I had written was too jokey, and I was like, I've never worried that a poem is too jokey a day in my life. Like if it's funny, it's funny. That's not a thing that I concern
it's
myself
your
about.
business.
Yeah,
You let yourself we don't go by what other people are judging you by.
exactly.
So you're in recovery?
I'm a silly goose. Oh, yeah, I'm also in recovery, and I'm also a silly goose in recovery. But yeah, I've been sober in recovery for about a year and a half now. Yeah, it's exciting. So yeah, it's double-edged when I say silly goose in recovery. Some people pick up on that. Not everyone does, and I'm thrilled that you did.
Well, I was just curious.
Yeah.
I definitely. But you're recovering from being a silly goose. No, you're just a silly goose in recovery.
Exactly.
I got you.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want a funny serious poem, or do you want just a serious poem? What are you feeling, Nancy?
Ooh.
What is your?
Well, I think I sort of want to hear a serious poem.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Okay. I think I have something. This is a poem. Actually, we talked about this just before the podcast started.
Do we need to do a trigger warning? No, let's not. Let's just talk. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
People know it's traumedy. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you and I were talking about this. I've been recently writing a lot about feeling like my brain is not my friend and dissociating. So this has been something that was brought on by some recent episodes of dissociation that I've had. It's called My Brain Is Not My Friend. One day I woke up and my brain was not my friend anymore. We used to be good pals, the stay up all night FaceTime friends, besties for brunches and lunches, the person I told all of my secrets to. But then something bad happened to me, and my brain was not my friend anymore. They started acting distant, taking longer to respond when we see each other in the street. We don't know if we should fist bump or high five, so we do both, and it's awkward. The distance between us grows with every moment. I start going to parties, my attempts at reconnection. I'm doing that thing that everyone does after a breakup where I'm posting on my story in the hopes that they would see how fine I'm clearly doing. I hope if I'm convincing enough at lying, we'll both believe me eventually. But with every bottle, every line, every time I wake up hungover on the bathroom floor, it drives us further apart. When the parties don't work, I do the rest of the effort unsuccessfully. I do therapy, Prozac, EMDR. I do yoga. I meditate. I do #self-care. When that doesn't work, I'm wondering if it is even worth it. I refuse to believe that our friendship can really be over one bad thing if it can, then we were never friends to begin with. If they want to abandon me like that, then that's fine. If they don't want to listen to me, then that's whatever. In the cacophony of my everything attempt to be close again, I hear my brain say, oh my God, just stop doing cocaine. And in the finally quiet, my brain whispers to me, I have never needed any of this. Never medication or addiction. I just need to be heard. You assumed what I needed, but I have never needed anything other than to be seen. I am not your friend. And they're right. My brain is not my friend. They're more important than that. They're someone I trust, like a lover, a brother, my mother, more than my acquaintances and more than twin flames or soulmates. My brain has never been my friend, but I was just too obsessed to see, trying to predict what it wants, but never really listening. My brain is not my friend. It is not my job to solve things. It's not what my brain needs. When they are hurt or upset, I sit and ask. When I'm lucky, they tell me. That's the poem. I've never been good at ending poems. I
think you are good at ending poems. I want to be with that for just a minute because, wow, I love this. It just needs to be heard. What is the last line again?
When I'm lucky, they tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That was powerful.
Thank you.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
And I was curious. I knew you wanted to say something, so should I let you say something first? You wanted to.
Well, what's funny is I actually wrote that after listening to a Traumedy episode. I remembered that halfway through reading it. I was like, oh, the reason this poem exists is because of a Traumedy that you did where someone was talking about being in recovery and talking with your brain and with your heart, or the
longest distance.
Yeah. And so I was like, man, what is that like? If I could talk to my brain, if I could talk to my heart. And that was the first draft of that poem was about that connection. And then it's gone through many drafts since then. But yeah, I remember that. I was like, oh, the only reason this poem exists is because of you. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
This is where the reciprocal beauty, I don't know where it started and ended kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where we're
just constantly inspiring each other to do stuff. Yeah.
Yes. I love hearing that. Thank you so much for telling me that. Yeah. It adds so much meaning to my life to know that something we did here inspired you and gave you a voice and gave your brain a voice.
Yeah.
I always like to say, back to the fake chicken tenders, I like to say I'm a voice for the voiceless.
Yeah.
And thinking about our voice for our body, vocalizing it, whether it's inside of our own head or if it's, out loud like that in a poem, giving your brain a platform,
Yeah. And also it's a lesson that I've learned. That poem is a lesson that I've learned genuinely because I am so obsessed with that, coping, I'm sure a lot of people are like this of I can't be uncomfortable for more than a second. If I'm sad, I have to solve it. And so I was constantly, if I'm sad for even a moment, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to go, check in and blah, blah, blah. And it's I can just sit in this,
Yeah, that is the bravest thing we do.
Yeah, right?
Is sit with stuff. And I am dissociating a lot lately. And I know because I'm just feeling overwhelmed, but I need to grieve. I always say that with my recovery work is so much about expressing grief, and letting it move.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have
you done that at a slam?
Yeah, I've done it at a slam.
You said, it's been through a few incarnations.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and poems are dynamic. They're alive, huh? They're not just. Are your poems ever this is the? If you printed it in a book or something, it's there's the printed version.
There's been one poem that I've ever written, and I just wrote it, and I went, I like it that way. And it was a dumb little poem that I wrote, and I just because I got really bothered by something that was happening at a slam. So at the slam, I was I'm going to write this poem right now about this thing, and then I'm going to slam with the poem at the slam.
In the moment, spontaneous.
Yeah, and people
cool.
ended up really resonating with it because it was kind of about me standing up for myself. And I wrote it, and every time I've tried to edit it, I don't know how to make it, because a part of what I like about that poem is I was so hot and bothered in that moment. And then I let it rip. I wrote a poem in an hour and a half or less than that.
Pure.
Yeah, and I've tried to edit it, but I'm it's just...
Yeah,
it takes away from that total rawness that it had.
I love that rawness. I love when an emotion also gets to just have that voice. It's so direct and it's palpable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so weird. I was talking to, I've shared this before, but I have a couple of reels that like the bits that I have honed over the years down to the level that I think is so clever.
Yeah.
And then I maybe just let something rip on stage like that. And that's the one.
Yeah.
I think there is something like, it's just palpable, right? That level of
people sense that genuineness.
That unfiltered expression. I used to work with an activist group, and that was part of the appeal to me, was how raw it wasn't polished or finished.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a poet working with us who's now like the poet laureate of Colorado, Andrea.
Oh, Andrea? Yeah. Oh, I know of Andrea.
Oh yeah, everybody knows of Andrea.
Yeah.
But she was in our group back then, when we were working together in the 90s, expressing so much. It was just, all about the injustices in the world. And here we are. I don't know. We thought George Bush was bad, but anyway.
Well, I think of that sometimes. Sometimes I read, I read a lot of contemporary poetry, but then I read poetry from like 100, 200 years ago. And it's, Sylvia Plath being like, man, this man is disrespecting me. And I'm like, oh man, they were disrespecting back then too. Like, you had your heart broken by some guy. I got my heart broken by some guy. Like
so there's this timeless thread.
Yeah. We're all in just cycles of like the same thing. And every single person is like, we're going to break the cycle. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try, just because a lot of people have tried unsuccessfully, and like we still resist in like our own specific ways and like stand up for the injustices that we cannot take. But I do think it's hilarious when I read those older poems that are just like, oh man, the government sucks. And I'm like, when was this written? Oh my God, 1650? That's crazy. Oh no. Yeah, that's the feeling. Exactly.
I was curious, like when I think of a poet, I always think of somebody sensitive, an artist's soul, somebody who I feel is the voice of the social conscience. Are there any conservative slam poets? Do you know what I mean? Like, are there any people out there just, giving it up for Trump in a slam?
Not here. I'll say that much.
I'm just curious if that is that. I'm trying to picture that. Like, how?
I think the closest that I know, there's this guy, I don't even know his name. He did a poem that's called like Totally Whatever, and it's dissing how females talk. He's like, oh, I'm hearing this girl and she's going like totally whatever. And he's kind of ripping her apart, being like, if you want to have authority in this world, you got to speak like you have it already. And that poem is not well regarded in like the poetry scene now, because he's kind of riffing on teenage girls. And a lot of poets started out as teenage girls. I started out as a teenage girl.
Yeah.
So I heard his poem and I was like, I don't talk like that. Like, even if I do, what's it to you, old man? Like, what do you want? And so there's a response poem that ended up going super viral from Olivia Gatwood, and it's called like Totally Whatever. And she's like, I talk like this because I'm so worried that like you are going to like interrupt me. And so
I've got to use those filler words I'm
constantly invalidating my own speech because like men like you like are always doing it. And so her response poem, I think his poem is the closest I've ever seen to like a conservative. But not a lot of them are going super viral if they're super conservative. I'm sure it exists. I'm sure there was a poem.
Probably, huh?
Oh, this was a poem that I saw at a youth individual slam. So it was, like a younger person. Youth indie slams are like between, I think 14 and 17 is the age range for those. And there was a kid, and I'm not upset with him in any way, shape, or form. If I see him in the street, I'll tell him this to his face, because he did this poem that was about, he was a white kid, and the poem started with, and I'm not even kidding, I live in an ivory tower built by black and brown hands. And the silence that happened at that slam, and it was a poem about how he has white privilege and he feels very invalidated for his experience as a white kid. And it's like, I understand that you feel this way, but also at a certain point, like, listen to the other poems, like listen to the poems that are being written by BIPOC people and read the room, like in the nicest way.
Yeah.
Understand. And
there's no part of it. I thought it was going to come out the other way where he is like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Basically. I'm sorry. Like, I know he can't help it, like that he was born into that privilege. But just to say, I think I've seen a poem where a kid is talking about being born into privilege and then clearly
and we
spins
expect
it.
the pivot. Yeah,
we expect the pivot, but the pivot never came.
The pivot
it was just,
never came.
Woe is me.
It was a lot of like, I have depression, but I guess I can't because I'm white. It was like, just write about your depression. It doesn't need to be this conversation that you're making it out to be. But I also think like he was a younger kid, still in high school. I feel like a lot of these things, like I wrote dumb, ignorant shit when I was in high school too. Like, you know, can I swear? I assume I can swear.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
Please
all do. Like we're at a certain point, like we're all on a journey and I'm like, he'll come to like the end of this journey or like at least to a further along point where he's like, man, that was kind of crazy that I read a poem about white privilege and like there was no pivot. I should have had a pivot. Or he won't.
But that's where he is in his development, right? Where he's like, hey, you don't understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And I'm sure just like, you know, I do this bit about they've outlawed a pleasure penetrating device in Alabama. A senator stood before the legislature there in Montgomery and pled his case that we shall not have in our state a pleasure penetrating device. It is immoral and I will not be replaced. And it is sort of like they are scared. I mean, the patriarchy is probably shaken in its boy boots.
Yeah.
And I get that. I can understand that. And again, I do believe in reincarnation. And I think in my most recent past life, what I came to understand is that I was a typesetter for the New York Herald named Gary.
Okay.
Typesetter for the New York Herald. I love doing layout. But I'm just saying, I've been a man. So I'm sort of like, well, you know what? I've been both sides of the coin myself.
And I think, you know, I don't know I've never actually thought about my reincarnations. I've thought about what I would like to be reincarnated as.
Oh, tell me.
Oh, do you know what a shoebill stork is?
No, but I would love to see a picture.
Okay.
When we post this episode, we'll put a picture of you and a
shoebill storks next to each other.
How do you spell it?
It is literally like shoebill.
Shoebill stork. Oh,
look
wow.
Look at that freaky looking thing. I want to be one of these so bad. They eat like raw meat, like they're very, and then like look at this
raw meat.
Yeah, it's a solitary wading bird native to Africa, and they can grow up to 5 feet tall, and they eat like raw meat. They're terrifying.
Tell me about the raw meat part. I'm curious, like who's throwing them steaks or tartar? Tartar.
Like you'll see them. They'll eat these big swaths of meat, and I've seen them feed. They're freaky
in
little
the wild.
guys.
When you say meat, like most animals that eat animals, it is raw meat.
Yeah.
But wait, what is
their like entire fish? Like I guess fish is probably a better way of putting it. But they'll eat fish, water snakes, frogs, and young crocodiles.
What?
Don't you want to be a shoebill stork now? That sounds dope as hell, dude. Yeah, and they're extremely scary.
I love that it takes all kinds. Like in no part of me wants to be a shoebill stork. I assure you, I would like to be. I want to reincarnate on the planet of empaths. I'm thinking the shoebill stork is definitely, I don't know, a warrior. You're like a warrior or something. That's like a warrior bird.
I would like to be reincarnated into a more intimidating body for sure. Because nobody's like, I'm looking at the shoebill stork and I'm like, no one's fucking with that bird. People look at me and I'm like a petite, pink-haired person, and people are like, I'm gonna go talk to them on the street. Nobody's gonna go talk to this shoebill stork in the street. No one's gonna come and engage with me.
Do people mess with you?
I get catcalled and approached too much. It's so rough.
Do you have any, how do you take care of yourself? Do you say something? Or I guess it depends on the vibe and the safety.
It depends on the vibe, yeah.
Yeah.
There has been a few guys where like they'll catcall me and I'll just respond, like I'll just honk at them. Like if I'm in my car and they're in their car, I will just sit on the horn like until they stop talking. I actually did that just a few weeks ago and I felt a little bit bad because I realized I was like, oh my god, there are like other people around us. Like, oh my god. But yeah, he told me, he was like telling me to roll down my window and I was like, oh, like something must be wrong with my car.
Yeah, my gas tank must be open.
Look at this good Samaritan. And then he like had me roll down my window and he was like, hey, what are you up to? Like, can I get at you? And I just literally sat on my horn and then I rolled my window up and then I I just made eye contact with him. And then I stopped. And then I realized, I was like, oh, like someone's in front of me. They probably think that like the light was green or something.
That's okay. There's safety in numbers anyway. So gave them a little adrenaline boost.
Yeah, right.
What did I do wrong? They're all still wondering. They're like asking themselves tonight, what did I do wrong?
Yeah. If you were at the intersection of Colfax and Colorado the other day and someone just laid on their horn, that was me. I'm sorry. It depends on the vibe. It also depends on like, do I feel safe responding? Because I was in my car and nobody's going to mess with me. And even if he does mess with me, I'll just like lock my doors. And if he breaks the window, then I don't know. I guess we have bigger problems.
Do a slam poem.
Slam at him.
Slam at him.
I did. I have gotten a guy to leave me alone with a poem because he is a poet that wrote a like 6-page long poem about wanting to do the sex with me. He's a guy that I've like never really interacted with.
Do the sex. First of all, it's pretty funny.
He wanted to do the sex, and it's a 6-page long poem about him being into me and about how he wishes that I had given him a chance. And I was like, dude, we don't know each other. And that was the poem that I got all hot and bothered because he was at that slam.
Oh,
and
so
I was like,
you did a response.
I did a response poem, and he has not really engaged with me ever since then. And I was like, oh, look at this, the power of my voice. Isn't that exciting?
That's so cool that you did it in the moment too. And that whatever it was that you said, no, I'm taking care of myself right now. And this is not the place for you to be hitting on me in a poem, a 6-page poem. And that's way over 3 minutes.
Yeah. And he knows that it's about him, like my poem is about him. And I know that his poem is about me. And like, that's really it. At like the end of the day, like I know his poem is about me. He knows that my poem is about him. I've told like my best friends who the poem is about, obviously. But like, other than that, it's just kind of a nebulous asshole guy. Like you don't really know who it could be about. It could be about anyone in your life. You can project whoever you want.
Yeah, you're not naming names.
Exactly.
And it's an opportunity for people to see the mirror, you know?
Yeah.
I was thinking that might be a fun book of poetry, of poems and counter poems, you know? I don't know, just that rhythm.
We have been thinking, like joking about doing, because poets are always dating each other and breaking up. We've been thinking about doing some sort of like Silver Springs thing where like we make eye contact while we do the poems about each other on stage.
Tell me what Silver Springs is. I don't know.
Oh, there's this video that is super viral that lives in my brain rent free of Stevie Nicks singing to like her ex-husband a song that she wrote about him, and like they're in a band together, they're in Fleetwood Mac together, and so they did this performance and she's staring him down going, "You will never get away from the sound of the woman who loves you." And it's incredible. It is the most girl boss feminism moment I've ever seen in my entire life. So I would love to do something like that of like, we're gonna make eye contact and we're gonna do these poems about each other. Like, and I think that would be so fun.
It's like almost like a roast, but not.
Maybe more of like a rap battle more than a roast.
Yeah. I keep trying to put it up against like comedy, whatever.
Yeah.
In the comedy scene, there are people that get involved and then they still have to work together.
Yeah.
It is a nightmare. I did date a comedian. My first lesbian love was a woman that I toured with, and then it was like, oh my gosh, it was difficult.
Yeah.
But I was thinking with poets, you know, whoa, the passion, and I just would think the breakup poetry has got to be killer, man.
We actually, so I was at a comedy poetry like duo open mic last night, and I am dating a comedian right now, and they were like, who do you think is worse to date, like comedians or poets? And I was like, I feel poets.
I love this. First of all, I love the question, who is worse to date?
Yeah, who is worse to date?
Can we add musicians in there?
Actually, that's a good, but then we get into like the different nuances of musicians too.
Yeah, I dated a jazz musician.
I also dated a jazz musician.
Was he also a pedophile? No. Okay.
No, he was not.
Although my ex would say, I'm not a pedophile, I'm a hebophile. Totally different. Dude, you like people much younger than you. And underage. Okay. All right.
Do you know
I'm back to Drake?
The only people who know the difference between pedophiles and hebophiles are pedophiles. Like that is by full, or people who watch too much Criminal Minds growing up, which is what happened to me. That's the way I know the difference.
Did you know the word?
Did, yeah.
I mean, he was so like, I am not a pedophile. I'm like, okay, listen, we are done.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter what you are. We are done. But okay, that was a downer. I apologize. I may cut that out. I often blurt that out. Just it's part of my traumedy release.
You're good.
And so you dated a jazz musician. Anyway, okay, we're leaving
Who is worse to date?
Who is worse to date? Okay, comedians or poets? Who is worse to date?
Because in your opinion, do you think it's worse to have your breakup be like used for sad poem or made fun of on stage.
Oh, dude, you're right.
Because I had a breakup with a poet and he quoted me on stage. Like he quoted my breakup. Like the reason that I broke up with him, he then used that like exact line word for word in a poem a few weeks later. And I was like, wow. And I've not had a comedian make fun of me on stage.
That really burns.
And also, especially as a fellow poet, I was like, I technically wrote that.
What a hack.
Is this plagiarism at this point?
Yeah. Take him to court.
And so, we were trying to talk to, and so I am biased because I'm currently dating a comedian, but I feel like it is worse to date poets. What do you feel though? Would you rather?
Well, I'm just saying, so that woman that I dated who was a brilliant comedian, and she was very poetic. She had a poetic soul. But I will say after the breakup, she definitely threw me under the bus in her memoir.
Oh, no. A whole memoir?
Yeah. No. Well, no, it was just one, chapter, or a paragraph. It was really a paragraph.
Okay.
But I mean, it was a burn, and it was just like, oh, dude.
Were there like any light moments in it? Was it like a sort of joking, or was it just like kind of a diss?
No, it was total diss.
Damn.
She just called me the bad nurse.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was just like, whoa, like kind of nurse ratcheted me. And really, the thing was, she was a recovering heroin addict who was getting a liver biopsy. And she wanted me to go to the nurse's station and ask for stronger drugs for her. And I was like, I'm not going to be your... you put your call light on and you ask for them.
Yeah.
I don't think
you have this conversation.
The puncture is done. It's going to stop hurting soon. Maybe just stick with the whatever meds they're giving you that are non-narcotic. But anyway.
Yeah.
But she, don't get between an addict and their drug of choice is what I always say.
Yeah.
They are not pleased with me.
They are not.
And I have a bad habit of my habit, of course, is I want to control other people. I want to heal people that don't want to heal. Now, she was already in recovery, so I just didn't want her to that's a slippery slope.
A lot of people ask me, because I'm recovering because I'm an alcoholic and I have been sober. A lot of people ask me, they're like, how do I get this person in my life to stop drinking? And I'm like, you really don't. It's not. It's not really your job at this point.
You really, you cannot.
Get yourself to an Al-Anon meeting and understand that you can't do anything about this. But so many people, I was not prepared for that in my AA alcoholism journey of how many people would be like, can you do an intervention for my friend? And I go, I don't know that person. Yeah. You can't ask me this. This is their journey.
There's no generic equation. What did help you get, or what was there a catalyst? I'm sure it was cumulative, but
it was a lot of this is actually, it's so funny, I've written so many poems about this because I didn't really feel like I had a problem, and a lot of people talk about that. They're like, oh, when I was drinking I knew I had a problem, and I was like, I really was not self-aware of how much I was drinking. I was surrounded by people who are also heavy drinkers, and I would kind of use myself as a litmus test against them of everybody in my circle drinks this much. So none of us have issues. We're all fine. And now in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that was just...
Were you all high functioning alcoholic? Yeah. We were all able to do your jobs and all that?
High functioning, pretty, day-to-day kind of people. It wasn't I never woke up at 8 a.m. and started drinking, but if it was noon,
come on, noon.
Yeah, noon is fair game. And so, it was really, I went out one time. I went to a slam actually one time, and I didn't intend to get drunk. And then I got drunk and I got into a really big fight, just a verbal fight with someone who I'm very close to. And I tried to, because I was very drunk and I didn't even want to get drunk that night. I wanted to do the slam. That was when I was new in slam. And so I was like, I really want to do well at this. So I don't want to drink tonight. And I don't want to impede myself in any way. And I ended up getting drunk anyway. And then we got into this fight. And I tried to say, hey, I don't want to have this fight with you. I'm drunk. And I ended up losing that friendship over that. And that was when I woke up the next day and I was like, this has cost me my closest friendship. And I, as mentioned, I take my friendships very seriously. And so I was like, wow, this is an issue.
That's when it hit you.
Yeah.
When you had that consequence of losing someone.
Yeah.
And you could not repair it.
Yeah.
It was irreparable.
Yeah. I've been fully blocked since then. And, I've reread those texts. You do the neurotic thing where you're like, what did I say? Did I do anything wrong? And and I just woke up the next day and that was the end of the friendship. And it was rough. And I had tried to be like, hey, I'm just too drunk to have this conversation. And that text is what stuck out to me, where I was like, whoa, like this was a very important friendship to me. And I got too drunk to like do my emotional maintenance on this person.
Yeah.
And that was when I like crossed the line. And yeah, it took me about...
And so it was a text fight?
It was
not in person?
It started in person, and then they ended up going home, and they were like, I'm still pissed. And I was like, oh God.
Right.
Oh, no.
And so then it kind of escalated or went more sideways.
And then like there were Ubers back and forth. Like we were at one bar, and then they ended up going home, and then I thought that they had gone home, and it was a whole mess of a thing. But yeah, there was that text where I was like, I'm just too drunk to do this with you right now. Like, I'm so sorry. I would love to resume this conversation tomorrow, because it was a conversation with a lot of nuance. And I was like, I would love to do this when I'm sober tomorrow. Yeah. And even me saying I'm sober, you don't even have to be sober for this conversation if you don't want to be. And that was the end of our friendship. And that was the line for me. That was such an important friendship to me. It was like my longest friendship,
Yeah.
And it was just...
And as that person, they were drinking.
Yeah, we were both drunk.
Gosh, yeah. And then of course I look at like, well, did you have to lose that person anyway to be sober? Like would they have been staying close with you if you were on your sobriety journey?
Yeah.
I wonder.
I have an exact poem about that where it's like, I hope that you continue the life that you have been living, and I hope I don't get myself involved in it. The whole poem is called I Don't Hate You. And it's just about like, I don't hate you, but I miss you, but it's your fault that I miss you, so fuck off. Like, and it's kind of like
the layers of that. I love the layers of that. And that's what our mind does too.
Yeah.
Because then we have these compassionate moments, and then we have this, I don't know, I'm doing a lot of inner family systems work where there's parts work inside of me and my inner teenager, and I've acted out under the influence of alcohol in the last year twice. Also newly on some ADHD medication, which I do not recommend.
Oh God.
I mean, I don't recommend taking a Vyvanse and drinking 2 Kentucky Mules. I'm just going to say, if there's a catalyst, which I experienced, and this is maybe me, trying to understand it, but I'm still going back and forth. Like my inner teenager is like, no, fuck yeah, you needed to say that. Yeah. And then this other part of me that's a higher self part, like, did you really need to say that? Was that appropriate? And I'm like, yeah, but we were warning all the people in that bar that guy was a sociopath. Don't be with that guy. He's an asshole. Yeah. And like, I still look back at that and go, I am not sure.
Yeah. I've been doing the IFS stuff too. And I've been working a lot in therapy of just acceptance, of just like pure acceptance of the situation. And because I'm that type of person that I'll run through like 1,000 different things that I could have done differently, of like, man, like what if I had texted them before they blocked me? What if I had, gone over one more time to do that? And I'll just do that for days and days and days. But I've just worked on like that acceptance of like, you know what?
This is
what happened. It is not good. It's not bad. It is what it is.
It's like, just what is. Yeah. Kind of that Eckhart's holy line, the business of isness. Yeah. We're in the business of isness. I think that's really helpful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be with that too, because it did happen. And it's so funny because then I call it my rage on the stage.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful to just like you said, stop ruminating or stop what ifing.
Yeah.
And just... sometimes it's fun to do. I do sometimes like to do the what if game, and or if that, then this, then this, then this. Also trying to trust my path. Like this is the path. And yes, twice in the last year, I have had what I call a rage on the stage, but both were these doppelganger people I think were sociopaths. I've been very sensitive to that lately after my sociopath abuse, and I don't know. I needed people to know.
It just, it is what it is. I actually had someone at a slam recently. There was a little bit of a shouting match at a slam recently. And honestly, what's so funny is the guy who hosted the slam was like, you know what? Shit happens. Like people get their emotions heightened. Like when you're on stage, when you have like your voice, and then when that voice is feeling threatened, like it is so scary to our central nervous system to be like, oh my God, like I'm feeling threatened in this moment and I'm in a vulnerable place because I'm on stage. And so he was like, you know what? It happens. Like people shout, because I was kind of nervous where I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen after this? Like, are you mad at the people who shouted? And he was like, no, like, people shout. It happens.
Yeah.
That's a very condensed version of all that drama that went down. But
but just allowing like, hey, people, we're human, and we get triggered. And when I'm triggered, my frontal lobe kind of goes off, and then I go into this midbrain response like everybody else. But I was thinking something flew through my brain there just a second ago. What you were saying, and I know what it was. I was just curious because sometimes alcohol liberates my truth. Also, I've been saying this on stage, which clearly there's something I need to work on, because I'm sipping my bourbon and calling it my shame juice. Oh God! Like when I feel shame in my body, and it's usually my inner critical parent or my saying, you shouldn't be telling people these things. I'm like, I got to drink my shame juice, and it's like kind of a shame and doubt blocker sometimes. When you're doing poetry, what was it difficult to transition to sober writing poetry from, maybe, I don't know, did you ever write while you were drinking?
I wrote while I was drinking all the time. I was constantly in like dive bars. Like I would sometimes do that. If I was stuck in a poem, I live like right across the street from Lion's Lair, which is like a really well-known, comedy dive bar. And so I would just go and just like sit in that little shitty little booth at Lion's Lair. I love Lion's Lair. Everybody go to there. But like, it's not a shitty little booth.
But it's an iconic place on Colfax.
And so I live very close to there. So I would, if I was stuck on a poem, I would sometimes just like jaunt over there, and I would like take a few shots, like do a few whatever. I was also into Kentucky Mules, which is funny that you said that. You and I are twin flames.
Oh wow, my future is coming. I see it now. I just drink out of the copper mug for my arthritis.
Exactly. It's pretty. It's shiny. But yeah, so I would just jump over and I'd be like, I'm gonna get like unstuck on this poem. Never would really help, because I would end up just getting super out of it. And very rarely would I like actually do the poem that I wanted to do. But I wrote plenty of poems while drunk. I wrote a lot of love poems while drinking. Something about that, like, I love everyone in this bar right now, and I'm gonna write a poem to all of you. But yeah, it was a big transition. The first time I ever won a slam in Denver, I was actually fully blacked out, which is kind of crazy. Like, there's a photo of me winning the slam and I have no memory. The stories that I've been told of like that evening, like when you black out and like people are like, this is what you did, and I'm like, I did that, cool.
I've never blacked out.
Really?
That I know.
Kind of crazy to try and quell that.
Yeah, and making peace with like, okay, I got rewarded for being as drunk as I probably ever am, and also got robbed of the memory of it.
Yeah. I luckily, drunk me made the slam host get up on stage with me and take a photo with me, which I do think is hilarious. Drunk me had some funny moments. Even though we disagree on a lot of other stuff, they had some funny moments that they did. But yeah, so I actually made the slam host get up on stage with me and like take a photo with me. And so I do have that like physical proof, but other than that, like, I don't remember anything. And I don't remember like people coming up to me and saying how well I did, like none of that. I just like sat in the very back of that, and I just got absolutely trashed off of white wine. And then sober writing, I didn't share a lot for the first 2 months of my sobriety, especially about sobriety. When I first got sober, I wrote a lot of poems that were like, I'm fine, I don't have a problem, I'll be able to drink again one day. And like, I shared them with some of my friends in recovery, and they're like, this is such like early sobriety nonsense. It's so funny.
That's how it is, right? Where you think, well, I'll just take this break and then I'll learn how to regulate it. Yeah.
So I have a few poems about that, and I look back on those, and I never cringe at like old work, because everything is, growth. I do cringe a little bit at that stuff, because I'm like, oh man, I was like high on the pink cloud for sure, where I was like, I'm going to be fine. I'll drink again one day. It'll be fine. Wrong.
I know. And I drive home sometimes from my recovery meeting. I go to a adult child meeting, and I'm just like, I'm not going to go to this the rest of my life. And then this other part of me going, but it might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, my loving parent is like, well, there's a solution named in my program to become your own loving parent. So I keep thinking, well, if I grow up, like if I actually do grow up, even though I'm a little bit stuck in my teenage years, which is probably why I was with the hebephile, I realized that later. But I mean, that doesn't kind of make sense, right? If I'm emotionally or even maybe sexually stunted at that age, that might make sense.
Yeah.
Especially with maybe my hetero side is that, that's, I never thought of this before. I mean, this is a whole weird subject I'm going off on all of a sudden.
I'm so excited.
But I was just thinking, my heterosexual self, my inner teenage female identified part of me is stuck with the sexual trauma at age 15 or 16, I think it was 16. And then, but then when I was in lesbian relationships, and there's a masculine part of me that feels much more mature.
I get that as someone who is also like on the gender spectrum. I do get that. There's something in that breaking your gender norm that makes me feel like a little bit more put together, like a little bit more composed. Because there's something about like I am explicitly breaking the gender binary. Like I know myself enough to understand what woman is and that I am not it. And so when I like am in my more like masculine divine, whatever you want to call it, I feel a little bit more composed because I'm like, this is a choice that I'm doing for me instead of just the default, which is presenting as female and identifying as female.
Yeah. And that we get to, as someone non-binary, we get to say who we are. Like, it's not like there's an imprint stamp from external, like this is what a woman is. This is what a man is. But I would say like, maybe for me initially, it sort of swung the other way where I was, at least with some of the women I was with, I was more, I think a little more masculine. I don't know. I was all over the place. What am I doing here? I don't know. I'm just saying it's like at some point where I don't have to go like all the way from way over there to, 15-year-old girl to older man. Yeah. I'm a mature man that will open the door for you. Like I'm a gentleman, I'll tell you that. I'm like,
well, and there is something, you were just talking about being your own loving parent, but there's something in that of you get to care for women the way that like you maybe did not feel cared for as a woman. And like there's something to that. There's something about caring for other people. I actually was talking about this in my recovery group because we were talking about, support and service that we can do for each other. And a lot of people, it was like kind of an old timers group, but there were a few newcomers, and a lot of the old timers were like, oh, like this is what I get out of service. This is what I get out of service. It's so nice to be of service. And then this newcomer was like, I feel awful. I haven't been of service yet. And I was like, no. Providing service, especially if you've been socialized as female, is the easy part. Because like we're so wired to caretake.
Oh, right.
Learning that you deserve to be taken care of, that's the hard part of recovery. And I was like, I'm just getting to that point where I deserve to be loved and cared for the way that like I did not feel supported. And she,
I'm just being with that. That was a beautiful nugget right there.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you do this if your recovery meetings are the same way, when you like kind of mentally plan what you're going to say and you're like, this is what my share out's going to be. And I was like making myself cry as I was like planning. But yeah, it's so important that's been the hardest part of recovery, especially as femmes, especially as people who are socialized as female growing up, is understanding that like you deserve love. Not saying that masculine people don't also feel that, but that's been a lot of my experience as like a femme of like, oh, like I'm in a caretaker role a lot.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to be taken care of. And that's been the hardest part of recovery, and like that I deserve it too.
Wow. And I think it's actually even frightening.
It is. It's terrifying.
To feel like, oh my gosh, if I let someone care for me, will I start feeling dependent and scared and they're going to let me down? Or, if for me, I feel like there was a betrayal of trust with my mother, in a caretaking role. And it's like, I just realized that. I was even talking in therapy this week, like, when I think about some of my survival instincts that are coming up, and I realized, I was saying this last week, whatever, because of what's going on in the administration, like who's prepping now,
Oh, I heard that one.
The crazy prepper. But I was just thinking, like, I don't picture going toward friends and community to be safe. I picture a shovel and a piece of plywood, like dig a hole, pull the plywood over, camouflage it, hang out till the end times. I think the idea of being like trusting someone to hold my hand and say, I got you, is terrifying to me.
It is. It's very scary. I had a surgery a few years ago, and I was, in recovery from it for almost 2 months, and like the fact that my partner at the time just wanted to cook for me, and I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Why? You're not getting anything out of this, like, I don't understand this.
So many relationships are transactional.
And it's so, and I even feel that so much with like my friends and current partner. And it's like, if we want to hang out, I'm like, oh, I can like bring this for you. Do you want this? Like, because my love language is like gift giving, but also sometimes it's like, if I'm going to see you, I have to have an excuse to like see my friends or something. And I'm like, oh, I'll have a gift. And I'm like, I just want to see you. Why am I so scared of saying like, hey, let's hang out and be friends? So that's been something I've been like unlearning, especially in my current like relationship and with my current friendships of like, I can just say, hey, I miss you. Let's hang out. Like be emotionally vulnerable for once.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's been coming up for me with my one of my sisters, that I've just been messaging her and saying, I love you and I miss you. And it feels kind of scary. Like it feels like, oh, what's going to happen if I tell her I simply miss you?
Yeah.
There's nothing up. Like, what's up? It's not like something's up.
Yeah.
It's just, I miss you. I just want to say hi.
Yeah. I had a conversation with my sponsor where I was like, oh, I hate when people just text me saying, hey, what's up? She's like, why? And I was like, I actually don't know. That's a really good question. Maybe it's time to, like, why are you checking in on me? And I'm like, oh, because someone wants to know how I'm doing. That's crazy to me. Sometimes that concept is so formed that someone wants to check in on me. Yeah. And then I find myself checking in on people now too. Like, like a year after I have this conversation with my sponsor where I'm like, whoa, I'm like, it's a lot of unlearning. And then you like see that moment where you're like, oh, I'm now, a lot of that shame is gone. And then, but sometimes when it comes back, because like growth is not linear, and I am sending those texts and like it's full fight or flight of just like over sending a single text. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's easier to say what's up with you rather than saying, hey, I need a little connection right now?
Yeah.
That's hard to say sometimes, I think.
Both of them are scary for sure too.
Yeah, especially if you don't want to know the answer.
Yeah.
What's up? I didn't want to hear that, actually. Now that can I retract my text?
I expected you to say fine, and now we're trapped. We're trapped in this.
Is there anything you'd like to share about poetry or another poem or any feeling of sort of going towards closure of the hour together?
I don't particularly think so. I didn't have any poems picked out. I'm glad that I read the one that I did. Yeah.
I love how your subconscious knew that and then you remembered it. Like, I love how the subconscious works that way.
It does.
It's like there's a reason I chose this. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, halfway through, you're like, oh yes, because it was born out of this conversation with my brain.
Yeah.
How are things going with your brain these days? I feel like I'm in an episode of Strangers with Candy. You're too young for that show, but it was
sure am.
It was hilarious. Stephen Colbert and Amy Sedaris, and there was an episode where she's like, how's your brain? Anyway.
That's so funny. Me and my brain, we're getting along for the most part. It's been patience at the end of every day of just being like, all right, things that happen. I had a panic attack earlier this week, and it was the first one that I'd had in like a year and a half. And I was like, wow, are you not good, girl? Like, I'm like talking to my brain. I'm like, bitch, what is up? Like, bitch, what happened? And she's like, I'm struggling. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, just like being patient with myself of like, and like I was in therapy today and we're talking about the panic attack. And I'm like, what? At the end of the day, though, it happened. And it's just my nervous system had a response to something. And at the end of the day, like, it's not good. It's not bad. It's not good that I had a panic attack. It's not bad that I had a panic attack. It's just a thing. Yeah. That happened. My brain went, this is what I need right now. I need extra oxygen. You better get me this extra oxygen or else I'm going to freak out. And I was like, okay, I'll do this for you.
What is a panic attack like? I don't think I've had one, but is it,
for me, it's a lot of that, like tightness in your chest, like shaking.
Does it feel like impending doom?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I was just wondering if
it's varied. For me, when I had my panic attack yesterday, it was yesterday. Oh my God, it's been a long 36 hours. Anyway, but I was just like, oh, I need water. And so I started chugging my water, as we were talking about, like my emotional support water bottles that I have at work. And, and I was chugging water and I was like, oh, I'm like still shaky and I still feel like I'm going to pass out and I still feel like everything hates me and that like the roof is going to collapse. And I was like just chugging this water. And then I was like, oh, this is what's happening. So, but I feel like it's like the same way when your muscles start to get sore, when you've been going hard at the gym, it's like, take a break, And so for me, a panic attack is like, hey, just get some extra oxygen, chill out, sit down, like
something tripped over to that sympathetic nervous system taking over. Yeah. It's like a takeover, right?
Exactly.
And then drinking water, that's a good idea.
I do that.
And I think this is how I regulate. I've got my tea, you've got your water. It does something. They say gargle, look around the room, find 5 things that are green, which is easy in here. There's a lot of plants, and then don't look at the mess.
No, of course
because that might trigger a panic attack. But try to find, what is it? Like, I'm just trying to think
like
about,
things you can see, things you can hear, things you can feel.
Yeah, just really
the
grounding in the
senses.
moment. But for you, drinking water, and also you might have been, like you said, were dehydrated, maybe.
Maybe it was dehydrated, but it's really just your brain saying like, this is what I need, and I just need for you to slow down. Is the whole drinking water thing. This is useful for anyone who also might need this. When I worked at a daycare for a very long time. A lot of children will just cry because they don't know what to do with their hands, because you are so small and the world is so big. And so when I worked at a daycare, a thing that you can do to get kids to stop crying is just give them water, just give them something to drink. And it forces them to do something with their hands, and it forces them to breathe. And I do that shit to myself all the time.
Your inner toddler.
Exactly. It's that internal family system of like, my inner toddler just doesn't know what to do with their hands. And so having that water, I'm like, chill now. Cool.
And I think also you're taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
Like, look at me. I'm a big girl.
Exactly.
And there's also maybe some information in there that you don't know, like what was the little, who knows, a little memory that came through, or something got tripped, and it could have been, I don't know. I just know that panic attacks are terrifying. And I mean, obviously, panic attack, it's in the name. It's in the name, Nance.
Man, I was under the impression they were super fun. Both the words panic and attack made me think it was going to be a fun, cool time.
How long do they last? Like, I mean, if you interrupt it, maybe you can stop it with that drink of water.
For me, I felt I was feeling pretty out of it for like 4 hours, but not like 4 hours of pure hyperventilating. But it was like, it took me like 90 minutes to be like, oh, this is what's happening. And then it took me like probably another 90 minutes to be like, let's back to normal, like hard reset. But yeah, I know people whose panic attacks can last for like days.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And at that point, it's just like, I have no other advice other than Xanax. Like, that's my only advice to you at that point. It's just like,
take it down a notch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sending love to anybody who has had a panic attack, or, I hope that the word panic attack doesn't trigger it.
What an awful world that would be.
And it's a real body response.
Central nervous system.
It's a central nervous system response to something.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what brought it on. I have theories, but at the end of the day, I listened to my brain, and my brain said, "Go, slow down.
Let me breathe real fast. Here's what you're gonna do. Listen, huddle up, everybody. Breathe real fast.
Game plan.
Sweat profusely.
Yeah, cry a little bit, maybe.
Scream.
Yeah." But so yeah, I listened to my brain yesterday, and and that was a perfect example of like, maybe I could have, like, if that panic attack, if I had immediately been like, oh, I'm panicking right now, it wouldn't have been like 4 hours. It would have been like maybe an hour and a half at max. But at first I tried to be like, no, I just need to drink water and I'll just solve this. And that's the whole point of the poem, is like, I'm doing so much to just cope instead of just listening.
There's a lot going on in there.
Sure is.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
How many neuronal connections are going on at this very second?
Yeah.
It's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
I'm surprised how well we do. Isn't it? Let's
It's
give
insane.
ourselves credit. I mean, isn't it amazing how well we actually do at choosing which neurons get to be in front, and like, oh, I can just look at Stone right now and be engaged in this conversation. I can tune out the room, the messy room, the messy political scene, the infinite cosmos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is kind of cool that we are able to focus and be in a kind of this
Just very present.
this nice little, I don't know if it's a compartment, but in this moment of presence. Isn't that pretty cool?
It is. It's very fun. And I think that's, if you're thinking about writing poetry, maybe just start there. Just go, what am I feeling right now? If you're thinking about writing at all, one of my friends has started journaling recently, and he's so funny because I've been trying to get him to journal like for 8 years, like in the entirety of our friendship. And he's like, oh, I finally started doing that stuff, and I just write about what I'm feeling right then, and it's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason why this is very popular.
It does help to get it outside of you and out on a piece of paper.
Connection with yourself too, like, in those moments where you feel like you don't have a community, like you're your own community because you're like a body full of like all these different people and parts, and like you know, you can like reach back through your own body and like comfort the parts of yourself that need to be comforted, and they can comfort you. And that's what the IFS is all about, and it's so sick. Yeah.
Ooh, I got to hug myself about it. I'm doing a hug. I'm doing little butterfly hugs over here. That also another thing you can do. Cross midline.
Oh yeah.
Do the alternating butterfly hugs on your own upper arms. So when people want to find your poetry, where could they find it or find you? Are you on?
Yeah, I'm on the social medias. My main Instagram for poetry is @StoneWroteAPoem. You can also I run a literary magazine that is called Retrograde Review. It's centered around retrograde, and it's using retrograde as a tool for change and a tool for like understanding that shift happens. If you, Nancy can see the shirt, you guys cannot see the shirt. But yeah,
that's brilliant. Shift happens.
Shift happens. So that's the motto of the website, is that shift happens. And it's centered around not being scared of change, understanding that change is just a tool, and just shift happens. So yeah, you can check out Retrograde Review.
Actually gave me goosebumps. I love it.
I love that you love that.
Okay, so tell me again. So is shift happens? Wait, where am I finding everything?
So main poetry is Stone Wrote a Poem. And then Retrograde Review is the literary magazine, and you can find lots of poems. Not to give too much away, but your recent podcast guest, Von Sprecken, will be published. He hasn't gotten the email yet, but I will email him at some point that he's been published with us. And by fantastic. Us, I mean me and my cat, the hardworking literary management. But yeah, it's the
committee.
Yeah. I'm the editing team. She's support to the editing team. She's very important. But yeah, it's a whole literary magazine, and we do daily publications throughout the duration of retrogrades. So whenever Mercury goes into retrograde, you get a little email.
And I think that's one of my ruling planets too.
Yeah.
So I've got to watch it.
Let's do your chart. But yeah,
let's do.
But yeah, so that's something that you can definitely check out. I am sending people over there all the time. We always are having submissions like open and close. So check it out. Check out some of the older submissions. And yeah, Stone Wrote a Poem, Retrograde Review. Otherwise, you can find me wherever there are disco balls and wherever there are mocktails.
When a disco ball is up, look around and see Stone.
I'm near my spidey senses for disco balls. But yeah, so
staying alive.
But those are my big gigs.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you so much for dropping in every sense of the word.
Thank you for having me on. I love it here. But it was nice to see you again.
Yeah, let's have you back. Let's talk astrology next time.
Oh my God, let's do it.
Do you want to?
Absolutely. I'll do a whole retrograde review episode for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, that's what we're going to do. All right, thank you. I want to thank my guest, Stone. Check out Stone on Instagram at Stone Wrote a Poem. Check the show links for other connections to the Retrograde Review. I want to thank my son, Nathaniel Norton, for providing the music for Traumedy. And I want to thank you, especially the listener, who somehow we are connected energetically. And I just feel that. And thank you for that connection. And please reach out to me if you have any questions, follow up, need anything, want to be interviewed, want to have a conversation on Traumedy, let me know. And again, thank you for listening and being a part of this co-healing journey. Every episode, I get a little more healing, and I hope you do too. It's Traumedy Tuesdays, and no matter what, keep laughing.